हेलो दोस्तों, कैसे हैं आप? आपका स्वागत है साधन के एक नए एपिसोड पे, जहां हम डीकोड करने वाले हैं एक नए सेक्टर को। और इस सेक्टर में समथिंग इज गोइंग रॉन्ग एंड एज अ प्रूडेंट इन्वेस्टर हमें क्या करना चाहिए, ये मैं आपको एक सीक्रेट बताना चाहूंगा कि जहां पे भी क्राइसिस है वहीं पे अपॉर्चुनिटी भी है। बट हमें ये इतना पता होना चाहिए कि वेदर दिस क्राइसिस इज टेम्पररी और इज अ परमानेंट। तो आज मैं बात करने वाला हूँ रिसाइकलिंग सेक्टर की, और इस सेक्टर का लीडर और स्टॉक मार्केट का एक डार्लिंग स्टॉक है जिसका नाम आप कमेंट में बताएं इफ यू नो, एंड हियर इज द हिंट। This stock has reached a high of 1800 rupees, and now this is available at 800 rupees, and the stock has corrected by more than 20% in last 1 week post announcement of quarterly results. If you got the name, then please let me know in the comment. Before we go there, let me introduce myself. My name is Amitabh Vatsya. I am founder of Sadhan. I've done MBA from IIM Mumbai and I've done BTech from BIT Mesra. Had worked around 14-15 years in corporate world, and then I started sharing my knowledge on YouTube in the form of Sadhan. But I also have made a parallel development of creating a tailor-made mentorship program for investor who really wants to build up on the knowledge of fundamental investing, business analysis, and who really believe in the power of investment frameworks of investing gurus like Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, Phil Fisher. And somewhere down the line, whatever we have developed, whatever little success I had in market, I'm trying to make it in a capsule format and delivering it over every weekend through live classes. And that I call Sadhan Mentorship Program. And the batch 6 is going to start in December 21, 2025. Course going to be live over the weekend. So this is tailor-made for working professional who wants to build wealth in stock market. And that's why we kept it in a way that it would be structured. I will be sharing whatever I've learned over last 10 years of active investing into market. So if you are geared up for an accelerated learning program where I will be there as your co-partner, then do check out the link in the description, because the course is going to be live on December 21st. Seats are limited. I'll see you there. Now let's talk about a sector which is temporarily under a downturn, but I think will be coming out of tunnel in next 6 to 8 months. दोस्तों, I am talking about recycling industry. And recycling industry में there was a problem which was not disclosed by certain management, and that's why the stock has been hammered by the Q2 result of this company. दोस्तों, the case in point is Ganesha EcoSphere, and I'm talking about recycling sector which has been supported by the tailwinds of EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. The EPR की एक आंधी में बहुत सारे स्टॉक रिलेटेड हुए थे in FY24 and in FY25 even. But Q2 FY26 के नंबर जब गणेशा के आए तो stock has been hammered. We had invested into this counter exactly 1 year back. So I'm going to tell you about my perspective, how I look at this. So let's get deep dive into this today's presentation, which is about recycling sector. Many people say that recycling sector is dead. So Sadhan will be doing a deep dive on this sector, whether the future of this sector is totally bleak. क्योंकि हमने इस सेक्टर को 1 साल पहले डिस्कस किया था कि रिसाइकलिंग में फ्यूचर कैसा दिख रहा है, और हमने एक कुछ पॉजिटिव बातें की थी। बट अगर आप उसमें से इस सेक्टर को ट्रैक कर रहे हैं, देन यू विल सी दैट some companies have not done well, whether it's numbers, whether it's stock price, whatever metrics you would like to see, the performance has not been up to the mark. As a prudent investor, the secret sauce lies in looking at the opportunities where the crisis lies. And I think there is a short-term crisis operating in recycling industry. That's why we are focusing on that segment with a closer lens, and we are going to deep dive an interesting business which has been discussed on Sadhan. So if you have not yet seen that video, you can find the link here, or you can check the description where we have done a deep dive on the sector first. The benefit of watching that video is that you will know alpha to omega of the recycling industry, what was envisaged 1 year back. And this video will tell you what went wrong, whether there is an opportunity alive in this sector. And if you ask for my take, then I would say that we are poised to do much, much better, because there is some hiccup which I will be detailing about it. But there is a possibility of doing it well. So if you have a longer time horizon, then spend some more time to watch this video completely, and do let us know ये video आपको कैसा लगा. So let's deep dive into today's presentation. If you are an investor and looking at recycling industry from a long-term investing perspective, then you should know the regulatory mandates which has come in last 1-2 years. हम लोगों ने एक वीडियो बनाया था इसी रेगुलेशंस में जो चेंज आए थे और जिसके कारण ये सेक्टर अट्रैक्टिव हो गया था, उसको डिस्कस करता हुआ एक वीडियो है जिसका लिंक आपको ऊपर में मिल जाएगा. यू कैन क्लिक ऑन दैट एंड यू कैन वॉच इट टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस एट अ डीपर लेवल कि ये रेगुलेटरी मैंडेट क्यों आए थे. बट आई विल नॉट गो देयर इन डिटेल एंड लेट्स जस्ट समराइज व्हाट हैज हैपेंड and what this regulation was telling us. In India, the EPR, which stands for Extended Producer Responsibility, recycling content target for FY26 starting from 1st April 2025 mandated that any manufacturers of, let's say, bottles who is using plastic content, for example Coke and Pepsi, they have to necessarily use 30% recycled content from FY26. This was the scenario when we made that video a year back. And this mandate was also adding that FY27 में ये नंबर बढ़ के 40% हो जाएगा, फिर FY29 तक ये नंबर 60% हो जाएगा. तो every year 10% का एक staircase types का growth था. Things were looking very green for recyclers. This was the investment thesis, but what happened and why this did not translate into numbers? एंड इसी थीसिस को फॉलो करते हुए एक कंपनी जो मार्केट लीडर है जिसका नाम है गणेशा इकोस्फेयर, उन लोगों ने कैपेसिटी एक्सपैंड कर दी. और उन्होंने जो एक्सपेंशन किया है वो एक जगह है जिसका नाम है वारंगल, जहां पे वो पहले से उनके पास लैंड था, उसको वो ब्राउनफील्ड एक्सपेंशन के थ्रू कैपेसिटी को वो अभी भी 22,500 टन कैपेसिटी आरपिट ग्रैन्युअल्स की बढ़ा रहे हैं. एज वी स्पीक दे आर वर्किंग ऑन दैट प्रोजेक्ट. लेकिन इस चीज को समझने के लिए हमें पूरा डायनेमिक समझना पड़ेगा, पूरे इंडस्ट्री में क्या हो रहा है. इंडस्ट्री की कैपेसिटी पे एक लुक अगर हम दें, देन विल नो दैट एक्चुअली द होल रिसाइकलिंग इंडस्ट्री वाज एबल टू प्रोड्यूस just 70,000 ton of recycled reusable content at the closure of FY25. So जो ये रूल जो उन्होंने EPR का बनाया, उस रूल का इम्पैक्ट जो है कोका कोला और पेप्सी जैसी कंपनी पे बहुत ही ड्रास्टिकली होने वाला था. तो ये दोनों ब्रांड ओनर्स जो हैं, इंक्लूडिंग अदर्स, they went to regulators and they said कि आपने ये रेगुलेशन तो FY26 1 अप्रैल से ही स्टार्ट कर दिया है, बट राइट नाउ द कैपेसिटी विच इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर एडॉप्शन ऑफ 30% reusable content require us to have 3 lakh ton capacity industry wise, but the capacity is just 70,000 ton in the overall industry. And at that time, Ganesha EcoSphere had a capacity of 42,000 MT. So out of 70,000, 42,000 MT was under the table of Ganesha EcoSphere. So Ganesha EcoSphere was going to win in this game. But brand owner said that the capacity is not there. We need 3 lakh ton and the capacity, industry capacity is just 70,000 tons. So that's why please give us time, and government agreed to it, and they have given them a pause button that they can comply with this 30% mandate over next 3 years. So they got an extension of 3 years for meeting up this requirement. And that's led to the crash into this thesis, and across the board there had been sell down into similar businesses. You can go and check the share prices of Rudra Eco, and there are many companies into recycling who has faced this trouble. But let's zoom into Ganesha EcoSphere. If we look at the Ganesha EcoSphere की capacity expansion journey, then FY24 में they merely had a capacity of 14,000 ton. FY25 में they ramped it to 242,000 ton. Additionally, they are doing 22,500 ton. So in total, by the end of March 26, they will be having a capacity of 67,500, which is a very good part of the industry capacity. But they are not going to stop there. They also found a place into Odisha, जहाँ पे वो इससे भी बड़ा कैपेक्स कर रहे हैं, सिमिलर अमाउंट का कैपेक्स कर रहे हैं, एंड दे आर टारगेटिंग बाय FY27 1,32,000 टन पर एनम की आरपेट रिसाइकलिंग कैपेसिटी would be live under the aegis of Ganesha EcoSphere. So Ganesha EcoSphere looks very likely to make the most out of this opportunity. But I'm calling it opportunity, but you may disagree. But I will tell you why I am bullish on it at the end of the video. And before that, let's understand quarterly performance पे क्या हुआ and कौन में क्या हुआ, so that you and management and the whole market is at the same page on certain things which are important. But I will share my point of view, which is slightly different from market at the last few minutes. So let's get into quarterly numbers and also the business model of Ganesha EcoSphere, because this is not just a recycling player. They also have 65% business into textile. ये एक leading pet plastic recycling company है with more than 30 years of experience into market. They started up in 1987, and currently they recycles around 850 crores PET bottles annually. So the bottles you are throwing away, most probably it is ending up in the recycler of Ganesha EcoSphere. So it, as a theme, this is a very good theme. I mean, as a human, I appreciate that somebody is taking care of our garbage in a positive way. And how does this work make sense economically? Because those bottles are converted into granules, and these granules are going to make bottle again. So it's a bottle to bottle converter. So they have in total 6 manufacturing facilities across India and Nepal. And overall the capacity is nearly 2 lakh MTPA, including all the textile, yarn and recycling capacity. They have more than 400 plus client base across 16 countries. And on a daily basis, they recycle or mobilize around more than 450 ton of waste. So अगर इनके businesses को हम bifurcate करें, the first one is legacy business, which is a textile business. And if you ask me as an investor, I really don't like textile business much. बिकॉज टेक्सटाइल बिजनेस में हमेशा रेगुलर कैपेक्स करना पड़ता है, और अगर आप यार्न बनाना चाहते हो तो आपको स्पिंडल खरीदना पड़ेगा, विच इज़ वेरी कॉस्टली अफेयर. सो वो कैपिटल ऑनगोइंग कैपेक्स होता रहता है. तो रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड ऑफ दिस बिजनेस हैज नेवर बीन ग्रेट, or even margins has not been great for this company. What they make is RPSF, which is the fabric. They make dyed yarns, spun yarns, but they ventures into the other part, which is recycling, where they make rPET granules, rPET filaments. rPET granules are used to make bottles, but rPET filaments are made to use recycled yarn. So उसके कपड़े भी बन जाते हैं. So again it goes to the business one. So recycled यार्न वो बना देते हैं, तो जो कपड़े भी हैं वो भी रिसाइकल्ड हो जाते हैं. तो वो एक थीम में अगेन ऐड ऑन कर देता है. तो दिस इज अ पार्ट ऑफ अ सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी, एंड दे मेक rPET चिप्स विच कैन कन्वर्टेड इनटू bottles. So basically granules, then chips and then bottles. That's the value chain. Granules से आप फिलामेंट बना सकते हैं, फिलामेंट से आप कपड़े बना सकते हैं. So that's the whole chain. So ये एक ग्रीन कप क्लोथ बनाने वाली कंपनी है, because 65% business is related to textile. But 2 years down the line, the number is going to swap. When the Warangal facility will be live and Odisha facility will be live, then the overall revenues may 65% contribution would come from recycled businesses. And that's where the game will change. So that's why I was saying that there's a twist in the tail in this business. Or they have 2 wholly owned subsidiaries. One is Ganesha EcoPet, जहाँ पे ये pet bottling का plant है. Q2 FY26 में क्या हुआ जिसके कारण stock has been hammered? Just look at the numbers. Top line has just grown barely by around 8%. EBITDA has crashed by 38.5%, 36 crore से घट करके 22 crore versus huge discount, and margins has crashed from around 11 to 6%. So the company had made net losses. But if you look at the operating numbers, which is the volume has actually grown. So that is the silver lining, I would say. That is a positive change, and that led to revenue growth, but something went wrong into margin side. So let's look closely what happened in the margin front. And as a result, you can see the stock has crashed. The stock has crashed from the all-time high of 2400 to 800 levels. So it is nearly 60% crash has happened, and lots of investors who are there are feeling trapped. And you can see the volumes have also gone up. The stocks is really available cheap from its long-term historical price trend. Why margin got a hit? Because raw material की जो cost थी, जो Q1 में थी, Q1 of FY25, the bottle scrap prices has gone up to 55 kg. So company has a policy to have inventory, so they have hoarded a costly inventory. But later on in next quarter, the prices has gone down to 45 again. So 45 से 55 and again 45. But in between उन्होंने जो high cost inventory carry कर ली थी, that resulted into around 10-11 crore of absolute loss in Q2. So that's why this led to a compression of around 3% in gross margin, from 35% to 31%. But currently, as we speak, the high cost legacy inventory has been consumed by September end, and no recurring losses are expected. So on a accounting front, on a bookkeeping front, this chapter has been closed. So the story of dwindling margins was a temporary phenomena. The main essence of this presentation is the MOEF की regulatory uncertainty, जिसके बारे में मैंने आपको introduction में बात की थी. तो हुआ क्या? Why this all happened? It's happened in June 2025, when draft notification came from MOEF that recycled plastic shortfall to offset over 3 years. So the 3-year rope was given to brand owners, and the logic was simple, that there is a uncertainty of supply of rPET granules. That's why FMCG clients and giants, they went to the regulator and they asked that please extend the timelines. So what happened to the existing capacity of Ganesha? Their capacity utilization has dropped down to 70%. एक समय ये 1995 पे ऑपरेट कर रहा था when stock was also doing well, and the reduction in the capacity utilization factor to 70% has itself resulted into a loss of business for the company. But management expect that from January onwards the utilizations would pick up, because management expects that buyers would commit to the volumes in January onwards. So business wise, for this recycling business, January onwards business would resume on a better path. But the story doesn't end here. Remember, this is still a 65% textile company. Legacy business means the average selling price of yarn has dropped by 3 kg. And you know the yarn prices are going down and down, so which are hinting that world over the cotton yarn prices and even उससे लिंक होकर के recycled yarn का prices भी going down. So अगर average selling price ही नीचे आ जाता है and if you add the US tariff of 50% on Indian textile, इन दोनों factor के कारण the company has not been able to do really well. हालांकि sales growth was 20% but they could have done much better. But this, because of near-term headwinds, they face this trouble. And RPT subsidiary में the problem in terms of number is that average selling price fallen down by 6 rupees a kg. So 55 के बेस से वो घट करके 49 के बेस पे आ गए, and MOEF के notification का impact हुआ, and that's why revenue declined to 10%. So overall this sales growth was hardly 7-8%. So overall long-term opportunity for this sector is that the product mix going forward, as I said, is going to increase from 20% to 70%, 65% by 28. FY28, the legacy business would reduce to 35%. Premium fibers, which are biodegradable, antibacterial, and which cannot be flamed, are seeing gradual traction, although they remain a niche. तो ये जो टेक्सटाइल बना रही है, इट्स अ नीश प्रोडक्ट, एंड राइट नाउ द टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर ग्लोबली इज नॉट डूइंग वेल, बट इफ द नीश पिक्स अप देन obviously the margins would go up. Over the long term, it is expected to pick up because of reasons which we know that people are preferring a greener version of textile for environmental related concerns. So legacy textile have diversified client, and RPET is more dependent on large bottlers, notably Coke and Pepsi. So the futures of this company growth is actually tied up with the demand of bottlers like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And to add to that list, Campa-Cola is also joining the race. So Campa-Cola would also soon require that kind of recycled bottles. Management का guidance है legacy business में margin recovery होगी. Near term margin path for December 25 to March 26, यानी quarter 4, quarter 3 and quarter 4 when they are saying that the EBITDA margin is expected to be in 7 to 9% range, and this will be supported by strong order flow, GST rationalization, which has a trickling down effect on demand of textile. So that's why this company is bullish on it. The rationale is that high cost inventory is largely consumed in Q2, no recurring losses would incur. Medium term अगर हम देखें तो beyond quarter 4 FY26 यानी FY27 में normalized margin of this textile business would be 10%, and RPET business would reach to 90% plus capacity utilization from March 2026. So December से March तक volumes are expected to pick up, and March 26 के बाद their Warangal facility would be live. So volume jump and capacity utilization jump will add to the operating leverage. So that's why the company is constructive on it. But why we should believe in what company is saying? So I will give you a food for thought, and that is that जो pause जो आया है, that is just for FY26 की जो regulations है उसमें उन्होंने pause extend किया है. They have not spoken about FY27 जिसमें 40% recycled content होना है. My take on MOEF notification is this: if you look closely, then जो postponement हुई है that is limited to FY26 के numbers. So FY26 में the government has given a leeway to Cokes and Pepsi that if you fall back on not buying this 30% recycled content, then you can do offset within next 3 years. So you will buy extra in coming 2-3 years. But this caveat is not applicable in FY27. So FY26 तो हो गई, मतलब almost is about to end. So but FY27 में 40% is the requirement, EPR requirement. So again अगर brand owners चाहते हैं और कहते हैं, तो अभी तो गवर्नमेंट के पास भी आंसर है, क्योंकि वी नो द कैपेसिटी ऑफ इंडस्ट्री इज 2,10,000 टन, एंड इनका भी 22,000 टन का और आ रहा है, तो रफली 2.5 लाख टन का कैपेसिटी बिल्ट हो चुका होगा इंडस्ट्री में. So industry would be able to meet the demand of, let's say, 3 lakh or 4 lakh ton. The uncertainty would not be that huge. So demand and supply mismatch would not be huge. हालांकि फिर भी कुछ सॉप्स दिए जा सकते हैं to brand owner, but I think this time government is not going to say कि फिर से 3 साल के लिए extend हो जाएगा. So the extension, I think, is slightly distant. I cannot vouch for it. I can go wrong on this. But that is a part of the thesis that this will stop somewhere because this company has done huge investment into it and they are market leader. And recycler industry as a whole has been doing capex. So उनके भी capex live हो जाएंगे और अगर guideline जिसके basis पे they have invested is not enforced, then obviously these folks would lobby against it. So let's see who wins into this. But meanwhile, this counter is very interesting to me. So I thought it would be a good idea to share what I'm thinking. My buying price into this counter was around nearly 1,000. I never loaded it up when the story was going to 2,400 and all, because I really was not seeing any growth in business fundamentals. The one problem in this entire episode is that management was not open enough to share इन्वेस्टर दैट ड्राफ्ट नोटिफिकेशन में ये आया. अगर उन्होंने जून में ही बता दिया होता तो स्टॉक प्राइस नवंबर में आके क्रैश नहीं होती, उस समय ही वो रियल प्राइसेस पे आ जाते, बिकॉज इवन इन्वेंटरी बिकम कॉस्टलियर एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स हैपेंड. सो देयर इज अ लैक ऑफ ट्रांसपेरेंसी इन टर्म्स ऑफ letting us know what is happening on a regulatory front. That is a misstep by the management and that should be taken note of. But bearing which the capacity constraint and all those things should be factored in going forward, and that's why I reserve my right to be wrong. So it's a contra bit. So obviously one should take note of all the factors and consult a SEBI-registered investment advisor before taking an investment decision. This is purely for educational purpose. And if you feel that through this interaction I am empowering the investors, then give us a thumbs up. You can type yes Sadhan if you are benefiting from our content, so that we can make more and more of it. We really love interacting with our viewers. Request you to comment what you think about the content and what is your take on this sector, or if you think some hidden sectors which is into contra position. So if you think of some other sector which has a better contra bet conditions prevalent around it, let me know in the comment. So thanks for watching our content. See you next week in the next video.